And hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again with another video, and this is a part of a segment which I started ages and ages ago, and it's finally something I'm going to start doing more of. So I recently did a video which I call Little Known Comics You Should Try, in which I explained how the often forgotten sibling series to Batman Hush was in fact Superman for Tomorrow, and I showed off the Absolute Edition, and I talked about how it was something people should really check out, if only for the artwork, if nothing else. Well, what I want to talk about today, and I know you've seen the thumbnail, is the AllStar series of comics, because after Batman Hush, after the success of that, and after they tried subsequently to bring in Superman for Tomorrow, subsequently Marvel Comics decided to do an AllStar range of comics, which we have here, AllStar Superman. There was AllStar Batman and Robin, there's AllStar Superman, and there's a few others that never really got off the ground. But today what I want to talk about is AllStar Superman. Now, this particular episode is called Popular Comics It's Okay Not to Like. And that's not trying to be controversial in terms of the title, in terms of what I'm talking about. I'm not aiming to have clickbait or anything like that. And the previous videos I've had on this have been a little bit contentious, but hopefully we can keep it civil in the comments down below. So previously I've talked about the series Watchmen, which is a popular comic, but I think it's okay not to like it, and in fact I don't own it in my collection. And I've also talked subsequently about the series Mouse, which is of course a massively critically acclaimed comic, but again I don't have it in my collection, and I think it's okay not to like it. Well, what we have here is AllStar Superman, and this is my absolute edition, so I will stress I do have this in my collection, I do own this. However, whilst it's good, I don't think it's as great as all the hype. So let's pop this open, let's have a look at it, and let's see why I'm saying that. By the way, I don't expect anyone to agree necessarily with my opinion. What I want to do is just put another opinion out there so that people that are new to comics don't necessarily feel the pressure I know a lot of people do, which is to like certain comics because they're just considered absolute core foundations of the genre. I don't think that's really true, and in the same way that if you read books you're not obliged to have Shakespeare and Tolstoy on your shelf, I think if you read comics you're not obliged to have comics like Watchmen and, in this case, AllStar Superman on your shelf. Sorry about the shadows, I picked a very bright day to do this, but hopefully it helps the comic pop quite a bit. The Absolute Edition is absolutely beautiful, pun intended. So what do we have here? AllStar Superman. It's a 12-issue maxi series written by Grant Morrison and drawn by Frank Quitely, their long-time collaborators. It's a comic that came out in 2005 and actually finished coming out in 2008. And that is, to be fair, quite a long runtime. It was quite delayed. I remember reading this in single issues as it came out and just finding it a bit of a slog, to be honest, to try to remember what was going on with it. It's incredibly well regarded, it's just got loads of hype about it, and it is regularly referred to as one of the greatest comics ever made. I think it's pretty good. It's not great, it's definitely not one of the greatest comics ever made, but it's decent, it's worth owning, it's definitely worth reading. But why is it okay not to like it? Well, to start with, I found the artwork unprepossessing. Previously, when I was talking about Superman for Tomorrow in the previous video, which was Little Known Comics You Should Try, I showed off Jim Lee artwork, and Jim Lee artwork is staggering. This is Frank Quitely artwork, and Frank Quitely artwork is very, very good and lends itself to certain things. It was excellent in New X-Men, it was excellent in We 3, but in this, I thought it was okay, but it didn't blow me away. But that's just the artwork. Let's get into the writing. The honest truth of it is, I found the storyline to this okay, but only okay. And the reason for that is that it felt a little bit disjointed. Perhaps it's because it got published and released bit by bit over a 3-year period rather than the 1 year it really should have been. Maybe that's part of it, but it's also part of the fact that the issues just seem to be disjointed, either one-off issues or strange 2-part story arcs like the Zibaro story arc. And as a result of that, it just really, it just felt like it didn't really click. One of the main premises of this is that Superman has to fulfill 12 labours before he dies, because, spoiler warning, the whole point is that this is that's sort of the end of Superman's story, as it were. But even that felt quite disjointed. Of these 12 labours, some of them got skipped over, some of them seem a little bit sort of fuzzy, like this thing about James Olsen becoming Doomsday in quite a contrived way, and others just happened like in a montage really quickly in one of the issues. It's okay, but it's not brilliant. It's good, but it's not fantastic. So what do we have there? We have the dialogue is hit and miss, the story is a bit unfulfilling, and it's a little bit disjointed. Having said that, I'd strongly recommend reading it. I would strongly recommend checking it out. It's actually available on Amazon. The Absolute Edition is about 60, 63, 64 pound, I think, last time I checked, so it's totally available. I would personally recommend not getting the Absolute to start with. I'd recommend picking up the trades or the single issues as I did, reading it and making up your own mind. I know there's a huge amount of hype about, oh, you've got to get the Absolute, you've got to get the deluxe edition, whatever, it's an amazing story, etc., etc. I'm just putting this out there as a contrary point of view, as someone who reads a huge number of comics. This is good, but it's not, in my mind, as good as all the hype really says that it is. I mean, this is one of the things that people continuously put in their top 10 comics of all time. It definitely wouldn't be in my top 10 comics of all time. It's just decent, and it's worth owning, and it's worth reading. As you can see from the composition of it, it's got quite a regular, very stable, simple framing, a lot of word balloons. It's got a very sort of distinctive Frank Quitely style pace to the way that it's composed. And if you like that sort of stuff, you'll like this. I do like that sort of stuff, which is why I like this. But at the end of the day, is that really conducive to this being one of the best comics of all time? I'm not sure. That said, there is one bit in it that I do want to highlight as being awesomely cool, which is this bit here. This is actually a bit that got lifted into the Man of Steel movie by Zack Snyder. It's a particular quote, which I thought was absolutely amazing. It's done slightly differently here than it is in the film, but essentially it's a really famous quote from the trailer. You have given them an ideal to aspire to. Embody their highest aspirations. They will race and stumble, and fall and crawl, and curse, and finally, they will join you in the sun. One day, they will achieve wonders. That's kind of the lines from here, combined with the lines from the movie trailer itself. But I just thought it was a really nice, powerful moment. The story itself is full of little powerful vignettes like that. Grant Morrison is great at doing those sorts of things. But like I say, it's good, but it's not mind-blowing. It's definitely worth reading, but I wouldn't necessarily drop 70 quid in it straight away for the Absolute Edition unless you read it first. For me, it was kind of like, I would get it, but if it's a whale and I had to hunt it down for triple figures, I basically wouldn't have bothered. And there we have it, everybody. In case you wondered, the Absolute Edition's got some great extra features at the end, which is all this stuff. And it's a really well composed, very nicely built Absolute Edition. Yeah. Oh, and the ribbon bookmark as per standard. Like I say, it's a decent story. I'd recommend reading it so you can make up your own mind. I'd recommend reading it so that when people talk about AllStar Superman, you can say, I've read it and this is what I think. But please do not feel pressured to think it's the best comic of all time. It's not. It's not even in my top 10. It's not even in my top 20 or top 50. It's good, but I can, off the top of my head, think of at least 3 of the Superman stories that are better than this or that I enjoyed more than this. So, yeah. This is a popular comic that it's okay not to like. Well, as we were just saying, this was the start of the AllStar imprint, which was an idea to try to, again, recapture the lightning in a bottle that was Batman Hush. As part of the AllStar imprint, DC actually planned on launching an AllStar Wonder Woman by Adam Hughes, an AllStar Batgirl, which would have been very cool. That would have been by Jeff Johns and J.G. Jones in art. And there was going to be an AllStar Green Lantern, and this is the John Stewart Green Lantern, which was going to be written by Brian Azzarello and drawn by Chiang, Chris Chiang being the person that worked at Azzarello on the New 52 Wonder Woman run. So those all would have been cool, but none of them happened. In fact, the AllStar line only ever contained 2 comics. It contained AllStar Superman, which was a complete 12-issue maxi-series that continued in and of itself, and it also contained AllStar Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder. This, believe it or not, actually came out before this. This came out in May 2005. I think this came out in November 2005. So actually, bafflingly enough, AllStar Batman and Robin is the original AllStar comic from this line. There were meant to be 5 series. There's only ever been 2, but this one came first. This is a much hated, much maligned comic. And to that note, in the next video I do in this sort of this series, or this type of series, I'm going to talk about AllStar Batman and Robin, and I'm going to talk about why it's an unpopular comic that it's okay to like, and in fact is one of my favourite Batman comics.
All right, thanks for watching, everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at I am Thomas Judge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.